In recent years, the global landscape has undergone seismic shifts, and America's once unchallenged supremacy is now facing unprecedented resistance. Longtime allies who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Washington are now drifting away, signaling a dramatic change in the balance of power. From diplomatic rebuffs to rising economic and political tensions, the United States is encountering opposition from every direction. This transformation is not just altering international relations, it's challenging the very structure of the global order. So which countries are at the forefront of this bold defiance? Whether fueled by military conflicts, economic rivalry, or deep-seated geopolitical tensions, these nations are increasingly pulling away from the US in ways that could reshape the world stage. Buckle up, this list might just shock you. But before we dive into these developments, don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the notification bell so you can stay updated on the latest and most engaging content. Number 10. Brazil's relationship with the United States has always been a delicate dance, swinging between cooperation and sharp criticism. But by 2025, under the leadership of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Brazil has taken a bold step away from Washington's orbit. The country has deepened its alliances with China and Russia, challenging U.S. influence across Latin America. Brazil's trade policies now increasingly favor BRICS nations, with over 30% of its international transactions being conducted in Chinese yuan rather than the US dollar. This shift is further amplified by US sanctions on Brazil's crucial agricultural exports, like soybeans and beef, which have stoked significant resentment. The tipping point came when Brazil spurned a US military cooperation deal, choosing instead to strengthen defense ties with Moscow. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Brazil's arms imports from Russia surged by 45% in just 2 years. The public mood is also shifting, with a 2025 Pew Research poll showing that only 34% of Brazilians now view the U.S. favorably, down from 52% in 2020. With growing anti-American sentiment and economic realignment, Brazil is carving its own independent path on the world stage. Number 9. Saudi Arabia. Once one of the United States' closest allies in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has been quietly but steadily pulling away from American influence. The root of this shift? Oil. The Saudis have grown increasingly frustrated with U.S. economic policies and have turned to China and Russia for greater collaboration. In early 2025, Saudi Arabia shocked the world by announcing it would begin pricing a significant portion of its oil sales in Chinese yuan, a direct challenge to the U.S.-dominated petrodollar system that has sustained American financial power for decades. This move came after a record surge in Saudi oil exports to China, which reached 2 million barrels per day, while exports to the U.S. plummeted by 40% over the last 5 years. Military tensions have also strained relations, particularly after the Biden administration froze arms sales to Saudi Arabia over human rights issues. In retaliation, Saudi Arabia inked a monumental $15 billion defense deal with Russia, signaling a clear shift in its geopolitical alignment. Furthermore, Saudi Arabia's decision to officially join BRICS in 2024 was a bold statement of its growing autonomy from Washington. Number 8. Turkey. Turkey's relationship with the United States has always been a complex mix of collaboration and conflict. But by 2025, under President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's assertive and increasingly independent foreign policy, Turkey has charted a path that often puts it at odds with Washington. One of the most significant blows to U.S.-Turkey relations came when Ankara moved forward with the purchase of additional Russian S-400 missile defense systems in early 2025, despite repeated warnings from Washington. In response, the U.S. imposed sanctions, further straining the already frail relationship. Economically, Turkey has been fortifying its ties with China, with bilateral trade now surpassing $50 billion annually. Turkey has also shown interest in joining the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a security alliance led by China and Russia. Public opinion in Turkey is shifting too, with a 2025 Metropol survey revealing that a staggering 68% of Turkish citizens view the United States as a threat to their national security, signaling a deepening rift between the two nations. As these nations assert their independence and resist U.S. influence, they are rewriting the rules of global geopolitics. Their actions signal a new era of global power dynamics, one where traditional alliances are being tested and the established world order is being redefined. The big question now is, what comes next in this reshaping of the international order? With these nations at the forefront of the resistance, the future of global relations is being rewritten before our eyes. The world is changing, and it's clear that the U.S. will need to adapt to a new reality where its dominance is increasingly challenged. Number 7. South Africa. South Africa's relationship with the United States has historically been somewhat indifferent. But by 2025, this dynamic has dramatically shifted. As a pivotal member of BRICS, South Africa has made a bold move away from Western influence, aligning itself firmly with China and Russia. The country has become a strong voice against what it views as Western economic dominance. In a dramatic political shift, the South African government took a firm stand against U.S. sanctions on Russia, opting instead to deepen trade and military cooperation with Moscow. By 2025, bilateral trade between South Africa and Russia soared to an unprecedented $3.5 billion. Washington's repeated attempts to pressure South Africa into supporting Western-backed policies in Africa have only exacerbated tensions. Pretoria has been outspoken in its condemnation of U.S. military actions on the continent, labeling them as a form of neocolonialism. Anti-American sentiments have surged, with mass protests erupting in cities like Cape Town and Johannesburg. According to a 2025 Ipsos poll, U.S. favorability in South Africa has plummeted to just 27%, signaling a profound shift in public opinion. Number 6. Mexico. Mexico has long been entangled in a complex and often uneasy relationship with the United States. However, by 2025, this relationship has begun to fray at the seams. Growing economic disputes, increasingly hostile immigration policies, and political disagreements have pushed Mexico to forge a new path. Trade has been at the heart of the tension. Mexico has rapidly diversified its economic relationships, reducing its reliance on the U.S. and embracing stronger partnerships with China and other Latin American nations. In 2025, China officially surpassed the U.S. as Mexico's largest trading partner, with trade volumes exceeding $130 billion annually. Immigration has also become a major flashpoint, as U.S. border security measures have strained diplomatic ties. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has strongly condemned the U.S.'s aggressive stance, calling it hostile and unacceptable. Adding fuel to the fire, Mexico's decision to welcome Russian and Chinese firms to aid in energy infrastructure projects has only deepened the rift, marking a significant shift in Mexico's foreign policy priorities. Number 5. India. India and the U.S. have maintained a strategic partnership for decades, largely driven by shared concerns over China's rise. However, by 2025, cracks are beginning to show in what was once a strong alliance. India is asserting its independence on the world stage, carving out its own path in international relations. A key indicator of this shift is India's growing involvement in BRICS, where it has taken on a leading role in creating alternatives to Western financial institutions. In 2025, India expanded its trade ties with Russia, dramatically increasing oil imports despite U.S. sanctions. Bilateral trade between India and Russia reached an all-time high of $50 billion. India also significantly bolstered its defense ties with Moscow, signing a $7 billion deal for advanced fighter jets and missile systems. On the tech front, India has defied U.S. pressure to exclude Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei from its 5G network, signaling its desire to maintain a more neutral stance in the tech war between Washington and Beijing. Public sentiment in India has also shifted. A 2025 Pew Research poll found that only 42% of Indians now view the U.S. favorably, a sharp drop from 55% in 2020. India's growing desire to carve out an independent foreign policy trajectory is reshaping its relationship with the United States. Number 4. Germany. Germany has long been one of the U.S.'s most trusted allies in Europe, but by 2025, relations between Berlin and Washington are at their lowest point in recent memory. One of the core issues is energy and economic policy. The fallout from Western sanctions on Russia has particularly hurt Germany, which has been forced to resume some energy imports from Russia, despite U.S. opposition. Additionally, Germany has become increasingly critical of U.S. trade policies, which it views as protectionist and self-serving. The U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, which subsidizes American-made goods, has sparked outrage in Berlin, as Germany sees this as unfair and damaging to European economic interests. On the military front, Germany has been pushing for more European defense autonomy, advocating for the reduction of NATO's role in European security matters. As Germany continues to distance itself from the U.S., Europe's future geopolitical landscape looks set to shift significantly. Number 3. Iran's antagonism toward the United States is no secret, and by 2025 tensions have escalated to new and dangerous heights. Iran has solidified its military and strategic cooperation with Russia and China, culminating in a massive $10 billion arms deal with Moscow. The nuclear issue remains an enduring point of contention, with negotiations completely breaking down in 2025. As the U.S. doubles down on its pressure tactics, Iran has continued to develop its nuclear capabilities and enhance its regional influence, particularly through its alliances with proxy groups in the Middle East. The hardening of Iran's stance against the US represents a significant challenge to American foreign policy in the region. Number 2. Russia's rivalry with the United States has reached a boiling point. By 2025, Moscow has positioned itself as a direct challenger to US global dominance. Economically, Russia has adapted to Western sanctions by strengthening trade ties with China and other BRICS nations, allowing it to weather the storm of international isolation. Militarily, Russia has expanded its presence across the globe, forging closer alliances with nations like Iran, North Korea, and even Venezuela. Russia's military interventions in Eastern Europe and the Middle East have made it clear that Moscow is prepared to confront Washington head-on, both on the battlefield and in the diplomatic arena. As tensions continue to rise, Russia's geopolitical ambitions show no signs of abating. Number 1. China. At the forefront of the challenge to US global influence is China, which continues to assert itself on multiple fronts. Economically, China is actively working to dethrone the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, pushing for the adoption of the yuan in international trade. Militarily, China has expanded its presence in the South China Sea, asserting control over disputed territories and challenging American military dominance in the region. Technologically, China is quickly surpassing the US in key industries such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and 5G infrastructure. China's strategic partnerships with Russia, Iran, and other global powers further amplify its role in reshaping the global order. With its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, China is reimagining global trade routes and forging new economic alliances. As the US faces growing challenges from China, the balance of power is undeniably shifting. The world's political and economic landscape is evolving, and the US is now facing the reality that its global dominance is no longer guaranteed. As these nations distance themselves from Washington, the future of global politics appears increasingly multipolar. What do you think about these dramatic shifts in international relations? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more in-depth analysis on the changing world order.